There's no question that historical injustice has produced a certain level of current inequality. This is not disputed and is a fact to any fair-minded person. The real question is, what do we do from here? The simplest and most self-evidently true statement that anyone could make is that the remedy for past discrimination is to stop discriminating. But the utopian impulses of the left cloud the obvious truth. They take it upon themselves to exact cosmic justice, a task far above their pay grade, to correct historical discrimination with current discrimination. This is not a caricature of their view, as this is exactly what affirmative action and other preferential policies are attempting to do. Ibram Kendi, influential author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, actually says this explicitly. He says, quote, "The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination." And here is where things start to go off the rails. Even if it was morally the correct thing to do, and it isn't, there's the practical question of whether or not it can even be done without horrible unintended consequences. Unintended consequences that often means the cure is more deadly than the disease is not a bug of the utopian pursuit, but a feature. To illustrate how these unintended consequences often produce worse results than the status quo, it would be helpful to discuss what I call the difference between functional and statistical groups. A functional group is a group where 100% of the members of that group have the same status required to make them a member of the group in the first place. For example, 100% of the employees of an organization work for that organization, or 100% of people who have been defrauded are victims of fraud or theft. These are functional groups. Statistical groups, however, are the secret weapon of the false and unjust pursuit of so-called social justice. There's no requirement for 100% of a specific group to have the same status, but rather, they're more concerned with groups that are more likely to have a certain status. It is not about whether or not someone has experienced fraud, but rather whether they are more likely to have been defrauded. A person need not experience actual racism in order to be oppressed. They just have to be more likely to have experienced racism based on statistical group status. By extension, people need not actually defraud or discriminate. They only need to be members of groups more likely to have benefited from the fraud or discrimination, or more likely to commit the immoral action itself. The true execution of justice, however, requires that the functional groups be in the crosshairs when providing restitution or punishment for wrongdoers. The shift from functional groups to statistical groups means that in pursuit of so-called justice, inevitably people in both groups will receive something that they do not deserve, whether punishment or restitution. Now, what do you suppose will happen when you punish people who have done no wrong in favor of those who have not been defrauded? Are we creating a more just society or a more unjust society? Even if this only happens on the margins, it will become the basis for a new kind of uprising and racial tension, and will have the exact opposite effect of what was intended. Hey, you know what? If you stuck around this long, you obviously like my content. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Just go ahead and do it. I'll wait. Matter of fact, go ahead and hit that like button as well. Just go. I appreciate that.